Here we have 4 examples multiplying rational numbers. Rational numbers include fractions, mixed numbers, and even decimals. It also includes whole numbers, positives, and negatives. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first example. We're talking about multiplying fractions. A lot of people believe that when you multiply fractions, you have to have the same denominator. Well, that's not true. That's only true when you add or subtract. Multiplying is totally different. When you multiply the top two numbers. So 4 times 4 is 16. And then you multiply the bottom two numbers. 7 times 5 is 35. If the fraction cannot be simplified, then that is your final answer. So multiplying and dividing are actually much easier than adding or subtracting when you have two different denominators. So let's go ahead and look at this next example. Same thing, except here we have a mixed number. The problem is we cannot multiply with a mixed number, so I'm going to change that into an improper fraction. I have 1/4 times, and the denominator of my mixed number is 6. That's not going to change. That's going to stay the same, and that's very important. So watch how I do this. I'm changing this into an improper fraction. I'm going to take the denominator and multiply by the whole number. 6 times 3 is 18. And then I'm going to add 5. 18 plus 5 is 23. Then I have the same procedure here as I did before. I'm going to multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. That answer is going to get me 1 times 23 is 23. And 4 times 6 is 24. It cannot be simplified, so that's my final answer. So in the next problem down here, I'm going to show you cross-cancellation. I showed you cross-cancellation in other videos, but I'm going to go ahead and explain it again just in case you didn't quite understand it. Cross-cancellation means if you have a number on the top and you have another number on the bottom of any fraction, if you're multiplying, you can cancel them out or simplify them. So for instance, here I have a 3 and a 3. One is on the top and one is on the bottom. It's okay if they're in different fractions because we're multiplying. We're going to be combining them anyways, just like we combine these up here to get 16. So what I'm going to do is I can cancel them out. 3 and 3 cancel out. They simplify. We turn them into 1 and 1. And the reason why is it's the same thing as dividing the top and bottom by 3. When you divide 3 into 3, you get 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. You can do the same thing with the 2 and the 8. You can divide the top and bottom by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now what we do is we're going to go ahead and multiply what's left over on the top. So 1 times 1, that's going to get you 1. And we're going to multiply what's left over on the bottom. 4 times 1 is 4. And the reason why it's really important to know how to cross-cancel is because if you didn't cross-cancel, you would have 3 times 2 is 6, and 8 times 3 is 24. You would have to simplify that. But since we simplified it early, this is our final answer, and we will not have to simplify it. As long as you cross-canceled everything completely, that would end up being your final answer. As for the last problem, it's a little bit easier, but it is important to note that when you have a number directly outside of parentheses with no sign in between, you're automatically assuming that you're multiplying. I notice how one of my numbers is a negative. I have a negative 5.4, and the other is a positive. A negative times a positive is going to get me a negative. So if you don't have a negative button on your calculator, it's really important to know that. So what I'm just going to do is, I already know it's a negative. In my calculator, I'm just going to type 5.4. I'm going to ignore the negative because I know it's going to end up being a negative anyways. Times 0.05. And that answer is going to get me 0.27. But as I said, because one of these numbers is a negative, I know my result is going to be a negative. So this is going to be my final answer.